The thing with startups is you're always oscillating between thinking you've got the biggest thing to everything is failing. In most acquisitions, most people will tell you the biggest part of due diligence is actually on your legal and tax structures. That actually has broken a lot of acquisitions to not be done. And so if you want to position your company well for the long term in itself, just to grow or to be a good acquisition target, you've got to ensure that all that is very, very clear. The goal that you have when you're starting something as a founder is you just have the vision. But how exactly it's going to be implemented, the market will tell you. A startup essentially is starting out as default debt. It doesn't make enough money to even pay you or do anything. You've got to believe that you know something or you have an ability that other people are not seeing or an insight that other people don't believe in to be able to make this thing alive.
Welcome to yet another episode of the After Hours in partnership with Tanqueray Africa. We are here seated to have such an amazing conversations with Bradley Opere, and I am having a G&T after hours. What are you having?
This has been described to me as a Sizzle.
Sizzle, exactly. Tanqueray-based cocktails are the best cocktails, so make sure you're grabbing yourself one while you're here. So Bradley, you've made quite the pivot from finance to founding, but that seems to be a common story. So how do you know when it's time to leave a stable career path to bet on something of your own?
So I would say two things. If you want to live a stable career path and do entrepreneurship, actually contrary to popular belief, don't just go for doing the riskiest thing. Try limit your downside risks as much as possible. So think through clearly how's your finances going to look like over the next 12 months. So have a clear plan around that. And then the other second big thing is you really know first of all when you have the inkling to be able to do it and it's a problem that you think you have a unique insight on. And if you constantly see people not being able to solve it, there's a niche there. And then the last thing for me is when you kind of have a team that you can trust, that you feel is strong enough to make the leap with you. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get a bit more into that.
Cool.
Your journey has moved from private equity to consulting for startups. Mm-hmm. So looking back, what skills and lessons would you say that you've learned from the pivots that have proved unexpectedly valuable when you started building?
Great question. So graduating from college, when I took in my first job in private equity, it was mainly to learn about money. I figured very, very quickly that understanding how money worked was just a critical skill. Back then, I thought of it more as a personal skill because both my parents had worked out through most of their lives, but we didn't really necessarily, we're in a family that understood money specifically. And so did PE and was a financial analyst to just understand money. And what I then realized is being a financial analyst was a translatable skill across multiple different careers. It really helps when you're running your own company to be able to know how the money comes in
yes.
and where it goes out. And so that's been a translatable skill. And then the second one is just really learning around communication. When you work within companies, you learn how to communicate upwards, you learn how to communicate with people you're managing, you learn how to communicate with peers. And entrepreneurship is all about really, really learning to communicate. And the higher level of communication is sales beyond all those. So that's basically it on the lessons I think I picked up along the way.
At what point then did you realize that your family's car business roots could evolve into something bigger and tech-driven like Otto Rentals?
Yeah, so my family has done car rentals for basically since I was a kid. My mom did rentals for school buses for schools and used to rent those out, sold those, then she did those for the tourism industry. So she would give someone a van and then it would be used. And then once those were sold, my older brother then managed a small rental fleet of small cars. Think of Axios for people in the car rental industry. Mm-hmm. So he managed 3 or 4. And what then happened is across this journey, I started to do the financials because I had gone to school to learn the finances. So this kind of comes back to that other first question.
Yes.
And so I really started understanding what car makes what margin. How does this look like? How much should you buy it for? How much
Yeah.
should you then sell it for? Then I started understanding the downsides, or when you don't insure it well, and then you have your car in the middle of Mombasa Road and it rolls, true story. This is how painful it means for you to lose an asset and not be able to have any insurance backdrop
Yes.
on it. And so that whole story just started showing me all the problems with the industry, and just gave me a unique perspective to be able to try solve it. In addition to traveling as a consultant around the world and trying to rent vehicles myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking on to that topic of discussion,
Yeah.
what are some of the challenges or bottlenecks that are in the car rental industry in this African context?
We really need a day to get through all of them. But the first one is it's really all about trust. So the challenge on trust is two ways. There's people who want to rent out their cars, but they're not sure if Alice or Bradley are good drivers. They're not sure if anything will happen to their vehicle. They've given out vehicles and your Noah has been used to do cattle rustling in the middle of wherever you are and the police are coming for you. Or your car's been used to transport, illegal drugs, and now you're on the hook for it. So that's the issue in terms of people who want to rent to people who want to hire cars. Also on the flip side, if you think of most people's last experience trying to rent a car, like if you land in Mombasa today and you want to drive around, usually you've got to call someone who called someone to then hook you up, right? And so there's people who've paid deposits for cars and they've just not had the car show up and they've paid for it. Or they've paid for it and then the car got switched off in the middle of the road or the person you took the car from is not the owner. They subcontracted it and didn't pay, and now the car's been switched off. So it's really, trust is just building out that trust ecosystem is the main issue. Yeah.
So at what point did you have an aha moment of that this issue can not only be solved manually, but can be solved through technology?
Gotcha. So the aha moment, I guess it was more of a step by step, but the aha moment came when my older brother needed to leave and I effectively needed to figure out how to manage the rental business while still doing my job. And so it was just looking and being like, okay, we need to figure out technology to be able to solve this so that I can be able to do that. And then the second one was also just the good thing about traveling and seeing the world is seeing the level that software had gotten to in different countries. So being familiar with companies like Turo in the US and different people doing different models and just being like, I think car rental is lagging behind in terms of digital operational efficiency and being like, there's a niche there. Yeah.
I want us to go in a bit deeper into the product that we are discussing, which is Otto Rentals. Otto started with car rentals, right? But today you're building infrastructure that allows you to lease across sectors. So how do you avoid spreading yourself too thin as a business while maintaining the trust of us as consumers? As you've already said, that trust is a big thing that is lacking already within this sector, all while still keeping sight of the bigger vision. What is the bigger vision?
So, the bigger vision is Otto's building the digital infrastructure for renting and leasing out assets. And we are deeply focused on starting in car rentals. And the truth is, we're not going to move away from car rentals for a long time. We are interested in other sectors. We keep getting pushed by people to do other sectors, but it will take a while because the depth that we have to get into to be able to do rentals very, very well is a lot. And so just to explain a little bit of that, we help car rental companies with software to run their own businesses. That's a lot in itself. We have a marketplace for people to then be able to rent out and lease out those cars. That's a lot. We are building out also asset financing for our people based off of their use of the software to be able to allow them to change their cars and get additional supply of newer cars so that we maintain higher quality. That in itself is just a lot and a roadmap that will take us several years to do well. We'll get into other sectors once we can, but we're going to stay diligently focused on that for a while.
That's a really good response because we just had a conversation with another one of our guests, Samuel, and he was just expressing how in his perspective, an issue that a lot of startups fall victim of, especially in the financial sector,
Yeah.
is you deciding to do multiple products all at once before making them systemic, so that you don't end
Yep.
up losing focus and doing everything all at once.
Yep.
So I think it's admirable that there's that focus between you and your team to stick with car rentals as your anchor as you move into other things.
Yeah.
And what lessons would you say from car rentals then translate directly into other assets such as housing or equipment, and what challenges are completely different? I want to know about that move when you do decide to make that change.
Yeah, so I would say booking software is booking software. It's relatively the same. You're managing an asset and you're checking for the efficiency of it, and you're trying to have a software that effectively can do that. And so if you think of the ultimate financial goal for any asset is increasing its utilization rate. And so that's translatable across multiple verticals. Now, there's a lot that's then different between these verticals, which is why focusing in on one for a long time makes more sense, because, for example, the catalog around equipment, the catalog around accommodations and all that is just completely different, right? Like if you're doing property, like what does that really mean? Like, are you doing hotels? Are you doing accommodations for short-term rentals? Are you doing long-term rentals?
Yeah.
Are you doing what's like places like where we're at right now, which is like long-term leased apartments? Like, all those are very different. Are you doing furnished apartments? Are you doing so? Before you then get to thinking about that, you've got to, I'll just go back, you've got to still just go back and anchor on what you're doing, because even within car rental, there's so much variation. Like, how you rent a safari van is different from how you rent an SUV. How you rent a tinted car for a marketing agency is very different from how you do luxury for dignitaries. So very, very different, and we're more interested in honing and being really great at that before we then get into anything else.
I want us to talk about product market fit and finding the right audience.
Yeah.
Who would you say rents the most cars across Africa? Everyday consumers or corporates?
Most definitely corporate. Well, actually, none of those. Governments, to start with,
Okay.
are probably your largest person, and then followed closely by corporates and then individuals. The thing is, with corporates, most of the cars that you see on the road sometimes are not actively purchased. They're simply on long-term leases that essentially qualify as long-term rentals. And so different corporates essentially drive the demand, and then there's a long tail, still large, of individual consumers who can then further be segmented as well.
I'm curious to know, would you say that you're envisioning your primary target audience to be
Or
B2B
B2B
or
or
B2C or B2G?
So definitely not B2G for
But you
a lot
just
of
said those are your
reasons.
first
So
consumers.
they can be the largest, they're the largest customer segment,
Okay.
like generally in terms of market size, but not our largest consumers. So
Okay.
important for me to clarify. Our largest customer segment right now is definitely on the B2C. We are rolling out our B2B corporate just because we kept getting more internal inquiries. So we have a principle where we don't build for anything until people ask us for it. And so we built out primarily actually for car rental companies to use it for their own business. And then we started getting people asking us to be able to use it to book. So we built the B2C. And then we then started getting inquiries from corporates to be able to just get a uniform system to do specifically rentals and leasing for them. And so that will be out by the end of October at the latest. And so we keep building for those segments based off of demand-driven asks.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that approach, solving for what people have already
Yes.
communicated to you is part of the problem that they're
Yeah.
experiencing.
Yeah.
And so once you discover that, okay, that
Yeah.
these are the different segments and the different needs of the customers that we're potentially going to get,
Mm-hmm.
how do you then approach rebranding or repositioning to serve those audiences best, the different NGOs, expats, or,
Gotcha. Yeah.
the everyday consumer?
So how we've approached it is you go back and you check who's been booking with us the most, what's the data telling us on who books a lot with us, right? Mm-hmm. And so we found that it was a lot of professionals who used to book with us. So either they're using it for work, or they're using it for their own leisure with their families when they go somewhere.
Yeah.
And so the corporate comes in when it's like, if I'm using it for work as an individual, can you connect with my company and give me a B2B offering so that we just use this as an entire company? So it's the professionals who then are introducing us to the places where they work, because it's like, hey, I'm a surveyor, I'm a quantity surveyor, I need this to always move, or I'm a photographer, I need my equipment, just have the company come in and be able to do this for us. So figure that out. And then the B2C side was now building for like, oh, we need to build this because professionals travel with their families, so we need to care about safety. So that's why we then made our partnership with Rescue. So that means we're one of the few car rental, probably the only car rental platform where when you book with us, you also get additional ambulance rescue. In the event that you get into an accident or anything, we've got a number that can be called. They actually are monitoring the number 24/7, and we literally can get your family, your employees, people you love, saved in the event of any emergency, as well as towing and security. If you get lost somewhere, security can be brought to you, emergency fuel can be brought to you. So
At whatever time.
anytime. So that's basically just what we built
I
because
warned you
of our
against that
professionals.
because I do hire out your cars. So
We'll do our best. We've been doing our best.
I'm
It's
expecting
been
you to
great.
show up there on site in case anything happens
Super.
at midnight.
Hey.
We'll cut that out.
We will literally have a dedicated team through Rescue that literally is actually there on phone to be able to do that. Because that's not even something I would do. Like that needs a professional call center.
Yeah.
Because let's say like something happened to you, like you need a professional call center where if someone is not breathing, they'll actually have a doctor on call
Yeah.
to be like, hey, do first aid. We've dispatched the ambulance. It will be there in like 5-10 minutes. And I think this is getting deep into your product and your individual customer profiles and like what matters, what do they care for. We're not just in the business of giving vehicles, we're in the business of giving you an entire great car rental experience that you really want to tell other people about. That's what we want to do. Yeah.
We've mostly talked about the good. I
Yeah.
want to talk about the challenges and the in-betweens.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
no startup story is
Yeah.
as fully smooth of a
Yes.
journey.
Yeah.
So walk me through some of the bottlenecks that comes with building such a solution that
Yeah.
you're building, not just as a rental business, but two, as you, Bradley,
As
being
us.
as a co-founder, and three, as just building a startup overall.
The thing with startups is you're always oscillating between thinking you've got the biggest thing to everything is failing. And so the first thing is just emotionally keeping that balance. So for us, like one of the main challenges is as our sales started going up, my phone number actually till now was the company phone number. We're changing it. And so I practically had no break. And people in current will call you up to like 4 a.m. And our platform is visible across the world. So someone's 8 a.m. could be, my 1 a.m., which happens. That's the exact difference in American timing. And so figuring out those structures around how to be able to manage that, and then also balancing that with like, we need to have enough capital to hire someone. And so we've got to predict the growth and not hire too much to be able to do that. Otherwise, the financials won't work. And so it's making those predictive balances around like, okay, here's how we're going to grow in sales. Here's how I'm trying to also like have a life that works with all these things, because it feels like it's breaking, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And so that's some of the problems around growth. And then you've just got the practical problems around like, for a business like ours, figuring out liability. What happens when a car accident happens and things like that. And so we've had to struggle as a business to figure out what's the terms, what's the conditions, how all those structured to ensure we've got something that can grow over the long term. And then just primarily as a startup, like you've got to go through the grinds of everything. Like it's a really difficult time right now in the fundraising ecosystem. And so you've got to learn, what are you pitching? How are you pitching it? How do you talk to people? And all these, like no one teaches you, like you're learning as you're going. But what I'd say has really been helpful for me throughout all that is we've just got a great team. And a great team helps because even as things are good or they're bad, they're just even keeled across it. And I've been so thankful that like from our engineers, the co-founders and everyone's even keeled. Like when sales were going high, everyone pitched up and everyone takes a shift. in another organization, other people could be like, that's not my job. That's your job. You do it. And so we have a system where everyone leans in on, I lean in on product and design. Engineering leans in on product leans in sales, sales leans in engineering, because sometimes the product people are not there. You've got to go talk to the engineers, figure it out all together, because you're trying to find a balance, because this is a marathon, right? To do this well, we're in this game for like the next 10 years. And so that attitude has really helped us throughout all the challenges and all the pivots we've needed to make. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I think that's probably our superpower is our team.
Is our team.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I also think I have a very solid team. I
Yes.
love working with them, and it definitely makes the burden less, easier to accommodate. But what markets would you say, okay, right now we met in Nairobi, we're currently in Nairobi, but would you say you're looking to expand into different markets as well?
Yeah.
Or, and what are some of the challenges you're also anticipating with that move? You know, there's not only cultural nuances, there's different cultures in how people perceive cars. And when I, for example, went to Kigali, they didn't really, probably there would be chances to succeed because their taxi system is not effective. You would wait 2 hours for an Uber, for example. In different African markets, can they afford to have a car rental space?
Gotcha.
I'm just curious to know about the different nuances that will be involved as you keep scaling.
Yeah, so a lot of nuances. Like for us, so we've got to start with checking out, like, one, is there demand for such a product based off of what's existing? What's the alternatives that people have, right? Like before we started car rental and did our site, we needed to know if it would be useful or not. And how we knew that is because people were trying to book cars using WhatsApp and trying to know someone who knows someone. So we were like, clear problem, we can do this. The question as we go into other cities is this a similar problem that we see people here are experiencing, right? Like if you're talking of Kigali, the wait times look like this. It's like, okay, maybe then someone would want a driver with them the whole day.
Yeah.
Rather than having to get a point to point, and that's an alternative solution in that market. And then the question is like, oh, what's the price point then that works for people? And then going back deeper to the initial question you'd asked, what's the individual customer profile, right? Is it professionals? Is it the company that will do it for them? Will they want to do it by themselves? And so right now for us, we're in Nairobi, we are in Kisumu, we are in Mombasa. Nice. We'll be doing more expansion throughout different towns in Mombasa, so you can book with us in Diani, Malindi, and all those places at the moment. Across Kisumu, Kisii, Bungoma, and really Western Kenya, we're also able to cover that. But we are looking to deepen and get more and more deeper. Both, it's not just about getting a higher quantity of supply, but also a higher quality of supply, right? Because it's just as important that you get a car that you like and not just any car, especially for the target market of professionals that we're looking to work with. And so we'll expand across Kenya, do multiple cities. We need to get into Eldoret and Nakuru relatively soon. And then from there, we'll look to either go Eastern or Southern Africa. And we're right now doing everything that's needed from a legal perspective to be able to have a whole company structure that allows you to be able to do that in a nimble way. That's like a whole other basket of issues.
I really like that you said you're working to see if you have the right legal structures, because that is not something we're also, I hear too often from people who are starting their businesses. Kind of there's a go and consequences later type of energy. Why did you make that decision to do the opposite?
So you just start realizing that, especially when you want to deal with multiple markets, you've got to figure out the right structures before, because companies have built and grown relatively big and then had to claw back a lot because they didn't get some of their structuring correctly.
You're told to build fast.
Exactly.
Break things.
Build fast and break things. And then the reason you can do that is when you're well capitalized and you have enough money to be able to go out and weather that storm, then that's a strategy that you can take. Because effectively, you've got this VC backing that's strong enough, and you'll be able to hire all the legal resources that are needed to be able to figure it out in all those markets. And so when you look at build fast and break things, it's from your Facebooks of this world, your Ubers of this world, who are well capitalized to be able to do that. It's not a strategy I would recommend for a company that's not well capitalized, because you may not necessarily be the biggest person in the room, and governments and all that are also just starting to learn how all these things work. It's not as new as how it was before. And so being able to just figure that out on the onset allows you to just build over the long term. And actually, in most acquisitions, most people will tell you the biggest part of due diligence is actually on your legal and tax structures. That actually has broken a lot of acquisitions to not be done. And so if you want to position your company well for the long term in itself, just to grow or to be a good acquisition target, you've got to ensure that all that is very, very clear.
Where do you get the cards?
The cards?
The cars.
Oh, the cars. Oh my goodness. So what we do is our business first of all starts by having a SaaS layer, which is an operating system that car rental suppliers use to run their business. So we then are able to see which car rental suppliers have the best cars, have the best ratings, have the best operations, and those are then the suppliers that we allow to be listed on the marketplace. And so when you come to a marketplace, you're probably accessing the top 5% best car rental companies across the country, because our system has done all the ratings, checked how they work, and so that's how we get the cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two last questions that I have for you.
Yeah.
What excites you the most about this journey you're on?
I think what excites me the most is I'm very passionate about being able to build a global tech company out of East Africa that actually goes global. I think West Africa had the exit with Paystack that got everyone really excited about the industry. And I think East Africa needs to develop its own champions, and there's already a good number of companies that are writing their story. And I'd like for Otto to be part of it. And I'd like for it to also be part of the general Pan-African story that like we can be part of developing the tech juggernauts that, can run and power the world. And so I'm really, really interested in telling that story through our journey. And that really deeply motivates me. That's probably one of the biggest things. The second is just have fun with this. Yeah. I enjoy working with the people I work with. I enjoy the job itself. And so it doesn't necessarily feel like work.
Yes.
Even doesn't mean you don't do things you don't like. I'm sure you do as well. But I really enjoy it. Yeah.
That's what matters the most.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember that when you're in the heat of the moment.
Yes.
But like I try to remind myself like I need to enjoy this process because it's these difficult days that you kind of look forward to. Otherwise your day is going to be dull.
Yes.
So the last question I have for you is what advice would you give to someone or a founder who's looking to solve a very local problem but scale across borders? Based on your experience.
Based on my experiences, I would be like, experiment relatively quickly, launch something and put something out. I wish we had put something out even faster. And then don't be afraid to pivot. Like the goal that you have when you're starting something as a founder is you just have the vision. But how exactly it's going to be implemented, the market will tell you. Because usually what you have in your head, it's really, really not what's going to fly. Unless you're like a deep, deep expert at something, of which most people when they're starting are not. And so I would encourage you to like have a vision, let go of like experiment and let go of how it's going to be done throughout here. Because I do see sometimes people want to like stick very tightly and not really listen to where the market is directing them on things. So don't be afraid to pivot. And just, I guess the last one is just believe in yourself. It's easier said than done. I'm sure you've probably gone through the journey as well.
Every day.
Yeah. Where it like, before a startup essentially is starting out as default dead. It doesn't make enough money to even pay you or do anything. You've got to believe that you know something or you have an ability that other people are not seeing, or an insight that other people don't believe in, to be able to make this thing alive. And so just have an irrational belief in yourself that you then like constantly test against reality. And then try find a good team and people who will like work with you regularly. That will help. Those are my 2 cents.
You've mentioned that you shouldn't be scared to pivot, and because people want to hold on too tightly.
Yeah.
When do you know it's time?
Well, the market will tell you. The thing that tells you need to pivot is when you're not making revenue. Revenue is the immediate metric that any business must have. If you're not making money, it means you need to change something.
Yes.
When you start making money, it means, okay, there's something there. So you need to change strategy when you're not making money.
You're not making money.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Maybe you can let our audience know where they can find you, where they can hire your cars, and where they can contact you.
Super. So you can find us at otto.rentals, so www.otto.rentals on our website and book directly. You can also follow us on Instagram at otto.rentals, and also on Facebook and on LinkedIn. We're everywhere, and you can book a car with us on our website directly. And, we look forward to giving you a great car rental experience with us.
Thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in. If you've reached this far, make sure that you subscribe to My Tanqueray Africa on all the major platforms. MTSAfrica.co is our website, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye.